Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. This is not new if you live in the States, but I saw this headline and it really grabbed me. From The Guardian, "Our Flag Means Death Review, a total waste of most of the best comedians in the world." There's a headline. They wrote, "There's no settled name for this type of post-office ensemble comedy." You know this, what I'm talking about? Our Flag Means Death. It's pirates. I'm trying to remember what it's on. Why don't you Google it, John? HBO Max, that's where you'll find it in the States. Anyway, a total waste of most of the best comedians in the world. There's no settled name for this type of post-office ensemble comedy, but you'll know it as soon as you see it. Lots of mumbled irony, diffident delusion, offhand passive aggression. Yeah, there's a lot of shows like that, yes. Despite the period setting, we are drifting in 21st century alternative comedy's comfort zone. Rhys Darby may be playing an intensely Rhys Darby-ish role to the point that you know what he's going to say and do before he says and does it, but nobody does that chirpy look thing like him. You know Rhys Darby, he's the manager on Flight of the Conchords, that guy. You know him. The Guardian adds, among the familiar faces who are either a mark of quality production or a sign of a certain relaxed chumminess in the casting, depending how charitable you're feeling, are Fred Armisen, Leslie Jones, and Kristen Schaal, and they're all given silly little guest roles they handle with ease. The Guardian, despite all that, gave it 3 stars out of 5. I started watching that, and I just got distracted, and until I saw this story this morning, I forgot the show existed. I'm not anti, I'm glad you enjoy it. I get busy. For example, I love What We Do in the Shadows, but I always forget to put it on, and I'm way behind now. I did finish Welcome to Chippendales. That was fantastic. The last 2 episodes, but the front end of that series, very, very entertaining. The Daily Beast was catching up with Chlsea Handler and said, "Hey, seems like you haven't been shy about the fact you'd want the Daily Show gig on a permanent basis if it was offered to you." Chlsea said, "Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to have conversations about that for sure." If you missed my podcast the other day, I said I think Chlsea would be really good at it. I also said I would be surprised if they give it to her because they tend to hire younger people. For example, Trevor Noah was around 31 years old when he started hosting the show. Chlsea Handler is in her late 40s. I'm not sure they're going to give anyone in their late 40s The Daily Show, but I could be wrong. Roy Wood Jr. is 44, if you're curious. Good question from the Daily Beast. When Jon Stewart stepped down, I remember they were going after all these people like Amy Schumer and Chris Rock who didn't want it, maybe because they felt it was too limiting or would tie them down, they wouldn't be able to tour. That's why Trevor left. You don't feel that way? Chlsea said, "Listen, it's a 7-year job. It's a 7-year itch. I quit Chlsea lately after 7 years. Trevor quit after 7 years. I'm pretty sure James Corden has done 7 or close to that. When you go hard like that, that's how long the job is if you handle it the right way. When I did Chlsea lately, I was on tour of a year. I wrote 4 books within that 7-year time, followed by book tours. I burned the candle at both ends. I'm not doing that again. I now know how to regulate and get the best out of myself. So yeah, it's going into something with the right intention. I have to want it. I want to work again. So that in of itself will work because of my attitude." So they asked her about the James Corden slot, and she said, "No, that's on at 12:30. I'm not interested in that. I don't care about that." Which is really interesting, too, because I'm not sure anyone watches at 11 versus 12:30. Most people catch up on these things on social media clips. So does it really matter when it's on? Who knows? Otsaku Okatska talked to the Hollywood Reporter. She sees stand-up comedy as a service industry job. She says, "I don't have this job without the audience, and without me, there's maybe not a show for them. We're all in it together. The reason I got into comedy is that I love people and I want to uplift their experience and their feelings. I'm not scared of living in the improv world. I kind of thrive in chaos and yes-anding. For the rest of my hour, the jokes, the structure, the stories I'm going to tell, that's written and rehearsed. But for me, leaving room for play is really important so even when you're watching at home, hopefully you could maybe feel like you were in that room too. Hopefully by now, listener, you have watched her special on HBO, and it was really fantastic. And a lot of crowd work, top of mind. The Hollywood Reporter proposed to Jerry Seinfeld, "To you, comedy's a science. It's mathematically earning a laugh." Jerry said, "Some parts are mathematical, other parts are just, it's a sound." I was talking to this comedian the other day. Actually, it was today. He has a bit about a dune buggy, and I thought, wow, I wish I could say dune buggy every night. It's just a fun sound. So sometimes that's the musical part. Sounds that are just fun to say. You always try. I have this long bit about personal storage areas, and there's a bit where I go, you got to bust off the lock. I don't say break into it. I don't say struggle to get into it, but the words bust into a lock, it's fun for the ear. I used to do this bit about bathroom stalls where I would say the under-display viewing window. There's no word under display, no phrase. It doesn't exist. I made it up and everybody instantly understands it. But that's the musical part, where it's an entertainment for your ear, purely for your ear, the Hollywood Reporter said. And there are certain letters that are supposed to be funnier, like K. And Jerry said, yeah, because they cut through. Couple ways you can support the show. Go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. You can throw $5 in the tip jar. I will take your $5. I go to the National Donuts chain and I buy a large iced coffee with caramel and milk, and I'll give you a shout out on the show. You can also join the $2 club, and then once a month they'll hit your credit card. $2 minus the service fee will make its way to me. Thank you. Another way to support the show is become a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts. For $5 a month, you'll get the episodes ad-free and early. If you just head on over to Apple Podcast and hit Daily Comedy News, they'll put that option under your nose. You could try that out for a month for free to see if you like it. Heather Shaw is a Jim Carrey lookalike, and she says people are disappointed when they realize she's not Jim Carrey. Heather Shaw is a comedian, which is good for me because then I get to include this story on my podcast here. She has been joking that she's Jim Carrey's long-lost daughter. People are quick to fall for it. She now has more than 2.2 million followers, I'm assuming on TikTok, for impersonating the star. But Heather fears that her looks may hinder her career. She worries people won't see her as an individual, but more of a celebrity doppelganger instead. Heather said, I think it's just a freak accident that when you mix my mom and dad's looks, you get one kid looking like Jim Carrey. I realized I looked like Jim around the age of 8. When Ace Ventura came out, I could do impressions of Ace really easily to the point that my babysitters would request I do reenactments of certain scenes to make them laugh. Everybody assumes I'd be annoyed with it, but I've heard it my whole life, so I've just become used to it. People tend to recognize me now as the Jim Carrey girl, so luckily, no one is completely mistaking me for the man. Heather shared a picture of her parents to prove that neither of them are Jim Carrey. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow. Oh, Prince Harry. Prince Harry's on 60 Minutes tonight. You got to watch that, and you got to download Palace Intrigue. Here, Mark Francis will tell you more.
Hello, I am Mark Francis, host of a daily podcast about the British royal family called Palace Intrigue. Did you see what Meghan Markle did in her latest documentary? Or what Prince Harry said in his new book? Well, the kings and queens and princes and princesses are ready to explode. Andrew is ready to implode. Royal sources are jumping at the bit. The in-laws just can't stop. The UK tabloids are about to burst. Americans can't get enough. The kids can't get any cuter. The press can't get any uglier. And Wills and Kate? Well, they're just wonderful. Get your daily dose of gossip and news from the world's most royal family. Follow Palace Intrigue on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your shows.